Hey everybody, it's Friday. We made it. We made it to the end of the week, and it's a long weekend here if you're in England, which is great. We've got the bank holiday coming up. So in a minute, I'm going to be talking to this lady this way, who's
That way.
Lyn Rajah. But first, we'll have this quick ad break. I need to get going, Mel. I'll see you later. People think, Lyn, that I just put that in there just for the sake of it, but actually, I do actually have one of those right here.
I think it looks very, very smart. I'm really impressed with it.
Really, really clever. Look, you can do this with it all day. It's like exercise. But actually, no, genuinely. See, in a former life, when I wasn't doing music stuff all the time, I was an economist. So there you go. And I went around the country looking after people that have got bad backs and bad necks and things like that. And this is called a neck stand, and it raises your laptop up so that actually you're not looking down like that all day long. Because modern society, we end up looking down at stuff all the time, don't we?
It's true, actually. I think I saw an advert the other day for your stand, and I said to my husband how smart it looked. And it was all you.
Well, absolutely, it was. See me afterwards. I'll give you 10% off. Now, cut you a deal. So it's been forever that we've been trying to organise this, because I, you know, you're a busy lady. I'm a busy man. You know, it's sometimes difficult with people to find a time that suits. But we finally did it. So I'm really, really pleased that you've managed to come on.
I'm really chuffed. I'm really, really chuffed to finally meet you in the interview. And yeah, I'm sorry, it's just been a bit of a crazy one because I work in the day and I'm a carer as well. So
isn't it crazy? Isn't it crazy?
My eyes are open. They are.
Your eyes are open. Where are you based, by the way?
I'm based in South London.
Right, lovely. Which part can we ask? No one's going to stalk you. Don't worry.
All I have to say, 10 miles from central London. I say, is it to be safe? I'll say that.
Yeah. Just in case, because you know that those fans, once they get going. So when did music start for you?
Oh gosh. Well, I was asked when I was little what I wanted for my birthday. I think it's about my 6th or 7th birthday. And I asked for a guitar.
Wow.
And I wanted to learn it for fun. But my parents were like, you know, if you want a guitar, you're going to have to learn it properly. And that started the journey. Yeah, they were quite strict. I was like, I wanted to be like bohemian and, you know, just go with the flow.
You just wanted to sit there cross-legged, play a little bit of guitar, strum away.
Yeah, it would have been nice, but I have to thank them, because if they hadn't have done that, I wouldn't have, you know, met half the people I've met later down the line. And then a few years after that, when I was 9, I started the trombone.
So, wow, the trombone.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great. Did you play in orchestras at school? And
yes, I played in orchestras at school. I remember it was somewhere in the 80s. We had this little fete we had to play at. And I remember Floella Benjamin was there.
Oh my word!
Yeah, she was there. I know. And then there was this show. I don't know if you remember. It was called Wake Up London, and I can't remember if it was Rabbit or Doon. There were 2 characters in Wake Up London. They used to go and show you different things to do across the capital, and one of them was there as well. So yeah, so that was a bit nerve-wracking when you're 11 years old and you're on a stage playing a fanfare at a fete, and you see these 2 famous people in the crowd. But yeah, so
Floella Benjamin, really, that brings back lovely memories. I mean, I used to love Floella Benjamin on TV. If people don't know who we're talking about, Floella Benjamin was a wonderful children's presenter. absolutely wonderful children's presenter. Talking of wonderful children's presenters, unfortunately, did you hear the sad news that Freddie from Rainbow has died?
Oh,
Do you remember
no, I
Rod, Jane, and
didn't.
Freddie?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh.
So that's very, very sad news. I loved Rainbow as well. Rainbow was great. You
Singing
remember
along to
Rainbow?
it.
Yeah. Paint the whole world with a rainbow.
Rainbow.
But the best thing was, I wonder what we're going to have for tea, Zippy. I don't know, George. I love those two.
That
Didn't
is
they?
really uncanny, actually.
Yeah,
That's a
thank
really
you.
good impersonation.
Well, I was them, and only at weekends, only at weekends. So yeah, so when you started out, you had guitar lessons. Then was that classical
Yes.
lessons, or was that?
Yeah, I started classical lessons touch the ground, so they had to get like telephone directories to put under my feet, and then it wasn't till I was in my teens and I wanted to learn the electric guitar.
Wow.
By this time, I was kind of between London and Colchester because I went to do a music degree in Colchester. And
Right.
the teacher I had, it was really difficult because I was juggling a degree, a part-time job, and going back and forth, and it just wasn't working. But then eventually I got taught little bits of little melodies on lead guitar, and in the end, like I had a really good friend who taught me little, riffs and things. But I'm not great at lead guitar, but it was, fun to have a
What
go.
was it?
But yeah,
What was the
classically
first
trained.
guitar you bought? Not the one that you grew up with. What was the first guitar you bought them?
Oh gosh. So let's have a think. Yeah, the first one I was given but as a present eventually got little Tipex markings to mark out the frets,
I love that.
which is quite cute. Yeah, I think when I went off to university, I was given as a present, I had a Benarb, which is a classical Spanish guitar. And I remember just smelling the wood and like, oh, it's lovely. and then the first one I actually bought myself was I think it was what was it now? What make was it? I think it's called a Tanglewood. It was like an electroacoustic guitar, and that's the first guitar that I did live open mics with.
Wow, very nice indeed.
And
Very
I
nice
got the
indeed.
money. I was actually just gone to a job interview at the time, and then just as I was about to consider whether to be poor from spending money on this guitar, I got a phone call saying you got the job, and I was like, yeah, I will take the guitar. Thanks very much.
So when did you start writing your own material? When were those first live performances?
The first time I did open mic was about 2014. First time I went into a studio to do my own material was about 2009 onwards. But when I was at school, I did little compositions when I was about 17. And I think there was a song I wrote called Moving On, and I put the lyrics on my wardrobe when I was at university, a few months after it was the sixth form. And I think the landlady was getting worried because the lyrics were quite deep. And I had to explain, don't worry, I'm not leaving the house. It's just just a song. It's all right. Which was quite sweet. I'm still in touch with that landlady over 20 years later. So that's really nice.
You might have to write a song about that landlady.
Yeah, she's pretty cool. I might have to get her permission first, though.
Oh yeah, that's fine. But I think that could be there, or maybe when you write a book one day, because that often happens. That landlady.
Chris, if you're watching this, I might speak to you about that.
Yeah, there you go. You might appear in a song at some point. In terms of your music, because it's quite varied, and there's quite a number of different influences in there. I can probably hear as well. Who were early influences on you?
Oh wow! So, because I used to write a lot of folk, you see, folk and things that were country, country style.
And there's still an element of that in your music, isn't there?
Yeah. So I used to, behind closed doors, I listened to a lot of heavy metal. Funny enough,
Right.
Massive Alice Cooper fan, and Iron Maiden and Metallica. But with the folky things, I really like Richard Thompson's music.
Richard
Thompson and Neil Young. And the funny thing was, somebody said to me, "Oh, your music reminds me of Nick Drake. I really like it." And I knew who Nick Drake was, but I hadn't actually listened to his music until last year. And then I was really
Right.
upset because then I read up about him and it was like he's passed away, and it was like, oh my goodness. But his music's just so beautiful. The Pink Moon album.
Yeah.
And so now I'm wondering if maybe in my future compositions that some of his inspiration might come through. But
Is that the one you started with? Pink Moon. Yeah.
yeah, I think that's the first album I've heard of his, and I fell in love with
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Brighter Later. That's where you go next.
Oh, okay. I will.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've actually got a book on Nick that I need to read, but it's about this big.
Yeah.
Honestly, about this big. At the moment, I'm currently reading this, which is Christian Hirsch's new book.
Oh, okay.
Have you heard of Christian Hirsch?
I haven't heard of. I've heard of Emil Hirsch, but I haven't heard of Christian Hirsch.
Well, check Christian Hirsch out. But another very good female singer-songwriter. So there you go. And it's all her book about her memoirs of motherhood and being a musician. So yeah, very, very good indeed. So in terms of, so there was that folk element there, and you were listening to heavy metal. You can't hear heavy metal in your music though.
No.
But there's electronica in there now, in some of the newer songs as well. Did any of the electronic bands? I mean, if you were growing up 80s, yeah, like what without asking your age.
No, that's okay. I did grow up in the 80s.
You grew up in the 80s. So what? I mean, that was the electronic era. So which of the bands, the electronic bands from the 80s, kind of?
Oh, I mean, I was a massive. Oh goodness. Why am I've gone shy now, and
don't worry. Anything goes here.
Help me out here. Yeah, Gary Newman. Yeah, so I was a
Gary Newman
fan, and
he's got a great new album coming out, guys. Yeah, great new album.
Yeah, I got to see him live a few years ago at the Royal Festival Hall. So that was pretty. I prefer his older material, but I mean it's a great gig. But I prefer the older music, and yeah, so I love his music. And I used to listen to a bit of Roixop, and but that, I don't know if that's the direct influence. I just got to a point this year, and I thought, right, I'm gonna just try and do something different. And I was just basically experimenting, and then just running off with ideas. And but the Horizon track, it was kind of part of it was based on an old idea that I kind of, brought back and just completely turned around.
Has that changed the way you write as well? If you started playing with electric beds?
I think it has changed. I mean, it's kind of opened my eyes that there's so many genres out there, and I do love folk, and I will write folk again. But I just wanted to, try a little bit down the electronic route for a while and just see where it takes me. And I've got another one that I haven't finished, which is more a kind of clubby vibe, which I've been speaking to Leo Payne, who has his show every Friday with Liscar Radio. He helped me on my video to Americana. It's just life has been so busy. I haven't had a chance to get in touch with poor Leo, but that's something for the future, hopefully.
I mean, I just tend to find, obviously, if you start off on an instrument like the guitar, and that lends itself, if you're writing sort of those songs that then have a more folky nature to them, because that's the grounding of that as a way of playing it at the end of the day. So, but if you then start to experiment with electronic music, you can find yourself just sitting there and playing with sounds, on a computer, which is a different way. And actually, for a lot of musicians, that then can become for some songs a different starting point. In other words, you get the sounds first, and that generates ideas, and then you may go back to a guitar?
I think that's like there's a lot of truth in that, and you know, because my husband like trained as a musician, so we met through music. But he's great because he's very supportive, but he'll also be honest if I ask for a bit of feedback on the ideas. He won't necessarily butter me up because I'm his wife. He'll be really like supportive, but he'll say, you know, oh, maybe you could do that here or something.
Well, I think
So
that's what you need,
it's
though, isn't it? I think that's what you
it's
need from
good.
people that are close to you. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's. I think actually, your harshest critic should always be the people that are closest to you. Because actually, in a way, you can forgive them for that as well. You know, and you know it comes from a point of love as opposed to a point of being nasty.
Well, it's funny. It's so true that you say that, Graham. I think also my mum, like she's 83 and a half, and I play some of the tunes to her because when she was younger, she used to do ballroom dancing and everything else. And I played one of the really electronic ones to her, thinking she'd hate it. And all you could see was her little feet just tapping, tap, tap, tap. And then I played her the more gentle one. She said, "Oh no, I prefer that one." I said, "Why is that?"
That's lovely,
Because it's
isn't
got a
it?
beat to it. She likes the beat. Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely. And the latest release that you've done, it's called Voyager.
Yes. Yeah.
You like your single words at the moment, don't you? You like.
I'm normally get told off for being too wordy, so I thought, right, I've gone the other extreme now, cave woman.
Yeah, keep it concise. So what's that track about?
So it's really just it's almost like a little love story, you know, that this maybe fictional character is waiting for her, you know, cyber prince to come.
Yeah.
and I don't know, I just kind of went off on a bit of, you know, bit of an adventure with that one. I thought mixing a little bit of folk with a little bit of ambience and a little bit of electronica.
Yeah.
And I, you know, and my voice does sound quite almost like folky bluesy in that particular track. So I did a little a cappella section in there. And it was funny because I actually felt my voice was almost a little bit Celtic in that track, and which is interesting is because I've always known that we've had a little bit of Scottish in our family.
A little bit of almost getting towards Clannad.
Yeah, it was a bit. Because my voice says to me, "Oh, tell me about this new track." And so if you imagine you put Enya or Clannad in a spaceship or something. Yeah, but I actually found one of my relatives did a bit more research on family ancestry, and it turns out some of the Scottish side were originally descendants from Ireland. So I was like, oh, quite chuffed with this discovery. You know.
Definitely Celtic vibes then. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Unwittingly, and I found that out. Yeah, but that's it's more got an ambient tone to it.
So I'm intrigued now. Is the heavy metal side ever going to come out?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'm ready. I don't think anyone's ready for that. I'm not sure if I would be ready for that either.
Well, it's interesting because, you know, I know a number of artists that I can think of, female singer-songwriter artists, where first few albums, it was quite quiet or ambient and had a niceness to it, you know, that you could just kind of sit on the bed and relax to or whatever. And then it gets to like third album, Syndrome, and suddenly, you know, it's like, oh, hello, didn't see that coming. But you think they must have had that kind of, you know, burning desire to get the electric guitar out at some stage and hit the power chord, and it just happened. You know, I'm thinking of things for people that know, people like Stina Nordenstam. If you've ever heard of Stina Nordenstam, her first couple of albums really jazzy, kind of folky, etc. Then Dynamite came along, and then, you know, yeah. There's other examples as well, but so you.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if you've heard of Christine Young. She supported Morrissey on tour, and saw her in concert a few years ago, and one of her songs starts off very gentle, and then it just goes into full on. I think one of them was called "Kill the Father," and it
Right.
was a section that was like, cut the apron strings, and then at that point there's like this great big glissando, and it's just amazing because it was just her keyboard and her bandmate, the two of them. So that was like, very gentle to very powerful.
Yeah.
The closest I've come to that was I did a song called Optrex for the Morning. I did a songwriters course at Premises Studios, and they said, right, you can't cheat,
Great
you
title.
can't use an existing song, you've got to do something fresh. So it's 4-day course, and just played around with piano, and then there was a brilliant teacher we had. We had Helen and Martin. And Martin Stevenson has a band called the Dainties, and so his band accompanied all of our all the different students' tracks. So I had his band accompanying my track, so it had a bit more of an edge to it, which was nice. It's like a folk kind of.
Well, that's absolutely wonderful. Little known fact: band that I was in at university called the Colourful People actually did Martin Stevenson and the Dainties his wedding.
Oh wow!
So there we go.
Amazing.
Small world.
Oh, that's amazing! That's brilliant to hear.
Yeah, back in the day. So if there was one person or one artist, dead or alive, that you could actually have played with, or could play with, or could collaborate with, who would that be then?
Oh wow! Oh, that would be really hard. I mean, I was going to say Nick Drake, but then I've got this real fascination. It's sad again, another musician who's brilliant who's passed away, but Chris Cornell. I really love his music. And yeah,
you've gone back to a heavier vibe as well there.
I mean, I love his music so much. I think the other person, if it was someone alive, I think.
Would you like to do a? Would you ever do it?
Maybe.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, would you ever consider doing a duet with someone like that? So, if that kind of voice.
If they didn't throw tomatoes at me, yeah. But I think Dave Grohl is very inspirational, and I've seen like videos where he's interacted with the fans and how he's been with his band. I was like, oh, he seems, pretty super cool.
Yeah,
he's a great person.
And a really interesting way of producing as well. I think he really thinks about the sonics quite a lot. Interesting how he sort of moves towards an old-fashioned analog sound sometimes, and then brings it up into a more modern sound other times. So that's really quite interesting as well. So there, two people that you would potentially collaborate with. That's so. What's next for you?
Oh gosh, I think it's to when my feet touch the ground again. I think it would be to try and to do another single, and then try and get the other project that's got the kind of clubby vibe to it, to try and get that finished within the next 2 years, because the way things are going at the moment, the months are just going by so quickly. It
is hard, isn't it? It is hard. Yeah. Do you hear back from people? I mean, on social media, I know we're connected via Twitter, etc. Are you surprised by the reaction you get from people, and are you often surprised about who's actually listening to your music as well?
Yeah, I think sometimes I am. I think there was like an actress who was in Hollywood films in little roles, and I was like, oh wow, and which is nice. And then
that's lovely.
There was a songwriter from Scotland that I really like the music of, Catherine Joseph, and then I've connected with her just to drop her a line a few months back to say that how much I appreciate her music, and so that was nice. So I think I found Twitter to be generally very, very supportive. I
Mm.
mean, sometimes you'll get people on there who are a bit demanding. They'll be like, drop me links. You're like, oh, here's my link. Why haven't you responded in like 0 nanoseconds? Or, it's a bit frightening.
I
But,
did a poll on it this morning on LinkedIn, which is predominantly my domain. I do a poll every morning, and because a lot of people have given Twitter lately a fairly bad press in terms of some of the behavior of people, but actually I just think that there are bad people and good people on every platform. And then generally I have to say, in defense of Twitter, that actually around the group of musicians that I've made as friends on Twitter, that actually it's been really rather pleasant. And actually I feel that there's a lovely kind of support for each other in terms of each other's music, regardless of genre and regardless of whether actually people are completely into one music type or another. That people are generally quite respectful of what other people are doing, and trying to help.
I think I've had the same experience. I find, because I only joined Twitter for the music last October, and it's been pretty. I was pretty blown away. I mean, like that support I'm getting today from you, and then also from like Nunny Boy, Graham Drayton, and the independent radio stations, and then of course the fellow artists and fans as well. It's been pretty magical stuff.
You're doing really well, by the way, at getting all of the names right, because I'm dreadful with names. But you're remembering to thank everybody, which is great. So I'm sure you'll get a lot of love when this goes out from people watching back. So the next thing is hopefully another single, and we might see a little bit more sort of dance in there from you. I mean,
if you want to see me die, oh my god, it's funny actually. I am a bit of an 80s music fan, and I'm a horror film fan as well. So I love what I've been watching Fright Night recently, and there's actually a great track in there by, I think her name is Evelyn Champagne King.
That's a great name, isn't it?
And it's like I've ended up doing my own, because there's such a good beat, and it's like a disco track, and it's like trying to get it in time is great fun. It's good. So I don't know I don't think there's any flies on the wall for that yet. Maybe when I'm braver, might send some silly video clip onto Twitter.
For you as a person, last question. For you as a person, what does music mean to you? I mean, and what does it mean to be able to make music?
I feel it just brings me with so much joy. And if most of the time I'm a happy little soul, but someday, we all have, good and bad days, and then days that aren't so great. I find it is a wonderful source of, nurturing my soul and escaping, from it all. And then, just throwing yourself into, whether it's listening to someone else's music or creating and inspiring people, hopefully.
That's a beautiful thing. I totally agree. I don't think I could not imagine for 1 nanosecond a world without music. It would just.
I know. Have you ever seen the film? Actually, was it Yellow Submarine cartoon for the Beatles? Yeah. And there's that scene where if there wasn't music anymore, and it's like, oh.
Yeah. Well, it's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. Lyn, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today.
Graham. Thank you so much.
If people want to listen to your music, which undoubtedly they do now that we've had this chat, where can they go to hear it?
So you can go to Bandcamp, so www.lynrajah.bandcamp.com, and then the other releases you can find on Spotify and also on YouTube and Apple Music and Deezer and Tidal, I believe,
and all those other streaming platforms.
Sorry, Graham?
and all those other streaming platforms. But do go to Bandcamp and actually purchase said music, because it's a really good thing. Just to it not because Lyn wants to get rich. She won't out of you buying music, unless millions of you do that, which would be great. But because it puts a smile on her face, and that's the most important thing. It's a lovely. It is. It's a lovely thing to wake up in the morning, have a cup of tea, slice of toast, and see that someone's purchased your music. There's nothing better than that. It really isn't. So do that. Go to Bandcamp, buy something of Lyn's, and make her smile, because and she will probably thank you personally for it as well.
I do actually. When people are supportive, I do personally thank them. And Graham, I want to hear more about your band at a later date.
No problem at all. No problem at all. Lyn, it's been an absolute pleasure. We will keep in touch, and when the album, because it will happen at some point, finally gets there, whatever year it is, come back and we'll do a listening party for the album as well. All right.
Thank you, Graham.
Cheers.
Have a great bank holiday as well.
Oh, thank you very much. And you. The weather's looking as though it might be good. So I really hope so, because I'm going to have fish and chips on the beach on Sunday. And that's going to be a soggy mess if it's not. So everybody, thanks for listening. This has been My Music with Graham Coath and Lyn Rajah. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.